You got to play 4 quarters. You got to play 2 halves. You got to play both ends of the court. And at this point, you have to play your best basketball in a championship game. I don't think that this was South Carolina's best basketball, but I do think it was UConn's best basketball
And
as a
yeah, I
team.
agree with that statement. I think that's a strong statement.
Hey y'all, it's nothing lightly. We back with another episode. It's gonna be an interesting one. This is a special episode. We just finished the final four on the women's side. We gonna recap for the men, but just maybe 10 minutes ago, SC and UConn finished their game. So I'm C's, that's Didi. Follow us on TikTok, subscribe to our page on YouTube, subscribe and follow on any of your social platforms. And of course, wherever you get your podcasts, follow us, give us 5 stars, and listen to us. Tell us how you like it. But anyway, let's get to this episode. Deasia, what did you think about UConn versus South Carolina? Let's get right into it. What are your takes on that game?
So it wasn't what I expected. I don't know if I mean, obviously I'm for South Carolina. I wanted them to win, but I didn't see them. Technically, I saw it being a close game. If they would have beat UConn, I think it would have been a close win. But I didn't pick them to lose by almost 30 points by UConn. That was very surprising. But what I will say is that UConn had an overall better tournament than South Carolina. So when they beat USC and they put away UCLA by double digits, I knew, okay, they not nothing to play with. And South Carolina was going to have to play their best game to beat them, which they did not play their best game today. I think the first 5 minutes they played well, and after that it was like UConn show. From there, it was all she wrote, UConn, which is sad. But I mean, this is basketball. You got to come with it. It comes down to those loose balls that South Carolina was missing a lot of those. You know, turnovers that they made early. I think that really hurt them. Not scoring on like small putbacks, simple putbacks. They missed a lot of those easy ones. And the game is one on the defensive end. I think they played great defense in the first half. That wasn't their issue. It was just those simple shots that they were missing, and then turnovers. Just being too careless with the ball and not being totally engaged on every single play. I saw that a lackadaisicalness from some of the players in South Carolina. Now, one player that I could shout out that I think that played her game best as she could. She's not going to score too much. She just kind of controls the tempo, and that's Raven Johnson. She probably had most of their rebounds. A lot of, she was going after the loose balls. But when it comes to scoring, you can't expect her to score 20. You want maybe an 8 to 10 from her. I don't know if she got to that tonight, but that's not her role. I just think a lot of other players did not play their role today. And I don't know if it's one person to blame. It wasn't South Carolina's day. That's what I'll say. It was UConn's day all the way. I got to shout out Azzi Fudd. Paige Bueckers played well. And of course, Sarah Strong. She was the reason in the beginning. It was Azzi Fudd and Sarah Strong. Paige didn't have to do too much late.
If you ask me what did I expect, because we talked about this early, but I told Deasia I would not give my thoughts on this game of who I thought was going to take it, because I wanted the element of surprise. I wanted it to be natural, like of the first time we talked about it. Of course, we was watching the game, calling each other, did you see this, texting about some plays. But if I was going to be honest, and this truth, I'm not just hopping on a bandwagon, I would have told her yesterday, when UCLA lost, that UConn was going to take this, and they're too dominant. They did not struggle the way that SC struggled in this tournament. And when I say struggle, the first 2 games that they played after the Elite Eight, they had a hard time. The game was too close. UConn only had someone to kind of force their hand on them. That was Oklahoma. In that first half, at the half, it was kind of tight. After that, they went on and blew them out. Paige, she put up 2 30-plus point games in this tournament. And what you saw today, this afternoon, was a basketball clinic. You can put If you want to show the fundamentals of basketball, how to defend on the perimeter, how guards should defend, how you defend man to man, watch this game. And then also offensively, SC, they just dominated SC from each end of the court. But I knew this was going to happen. So I know Deaja's disappointed. But to be honest, I'm not. I'm all for Dawn Staley. I'm all for her success. I'm all for the support of South Carolina's program. I love how she recruits these girls. I mean, I love her program. I love what she's built. But now it's UConn. The trophy goes back to Title Town. That's all I have to say. And I would have said it before, but I just know how much Deaja been riding with SC from the beginning. And I gotta be the one to bear this bad news that they dominated them, and I'm not surprised.
Sierra, you really can't say nothing. You picked UCLA earlier. If you
No,
go back
I
and check,
picked UCLA in the regular season, win the Final Four. If I go back to my brackets, UConn beats South Carolina. I have
but
them
let
winning.
me ask you this: that all of this, we could say all of this, but UConn, if Juju was playing, would they have even made it
I
to the
had
finals?
UConn making it to the finals. I
So you
had them
still
winning.
had them. I
No, I
think this
had
would have
them.
been a different story because I really think that UConn, they have a great team, but I don't think they have enough for Juju. That is a piece that South Carolina is missing. They don't have if Full Wiley is not playing like she should be, or she's just out of the game because of rotations with Dawn Staley. Then what do you have offensively consistently that Juju Watkins can do? And see, if UConn don't have to stop that, they can just go back and score and score and score. And that's what they did today. They didn't have to put any pressure on too many people. Nobody's on the other end, the defensive end. They could just play straight up deep and go back down and score. They didn't have to worry about, okay, we got to send 2 and 3 people towards people. They didn't have to do that to anybody today. You
I
didn't
don't
see
get it.
that, Sierra. You did not
No,
see them sending 3
I did
people
not
to.
see I didn't see any scoring like tenacity from SC, and I was
That's what
disappointed in
I'm
it.
saying.
I
And that
didn't see anybody try to take over the game. And for Wiley, she had too many early turnovers. It's almost, I won't say that she was nervous, but I don't know what was going on. So I do kind of understand why Dawn didn't have her out there. But then at some point, you got to do something when they start making a run. So but I want to get back to your point about Juju. I do not think that UConn would have allowed her to be the one player to beat them if had they played. And I'm not trying to take any light away from what UConn just did, how well they played. That's as good as you can play in a championship game. They blow out the defending champions. They blow them out. I mean, what more can we say, DH? They blew them out. And this was a blowout in the third quarter. We was texting each other like, this game is over. Let's go ahead and get going on what we have to. And that's not, I'm always going to sit and watch basketball. But at some point, like, it's nothing you can do. It turns into just watching a regular game. I would say the excitement, the anticipation, all of it was there because these are the two teams I had in my bracket. I wanted to see these two teams play. But I do not think that that UConn team is going to allow one person to beat them. Even though this tournament is, yes, scoring dominant. We have seen games, and we talked about this, that 100 plus, they get into the 90s to 80s. I just don't think that UConn team would allow one person to beat them. And
But
that's why.
Sierra, it's not one player. When you put Juju on the team, you have her and Kiki. Plus,
I
you got others
understand.
around. It's not just her. I still think that would have been a difficult matchup for
You think
UConn.
they have more scoring power than
Yes, I think
SC.
that would have been a difficult matchup. And I'm not trying to take away anything from UConn. Hats off to them. Congrats. This is their 12th win. They won this game fair and square. Like this was not a good battle. Let's just say for basketball fans, after the first quarter, Sierra, it was the UConn show. Azzi Fudd had 24 points, Shara Strong 24 points and 15 rebounds, Paige Bueckers 17 points.
Sarah Strong had played the whole three quarters before coming out. The first three quarters before coming out, late in the third. That's the difference when you wonder, wow, Geno was going for a win. Deaja, he was going for to finish them because Don was moving around pieces. You saw for Wiley sitting on the bench for a while. Raven Johnson was out. Tessa was out for a while. Geno did not take out strong, and that was the difference. When she had a double-double, I think she had a double-double with 6 minutes left to go in the third quarter. That's crazy. It's still another quarter to go. And you know, the play of the game, I just want to give credit where credit's due, because Azzi Fudd, she sat out like 700 days, 700 plus days. And when she got the ball on the wing on the left side, Deasia, and she had that one-on-one situation, she beat the girl off the dribble, did some razzle dazzle, and for Wiley tried to come at the last minute to defend straight to the basket with the left hand. That was it. That was the finisher of the game. That was the play of the game, because it was showing you how they picked apart that defense. They just picked them apart. But the problem was, DH, they had no answer for that small lineup. When you got Edwards trying to guard, who was she trying to guard? Kiki? No, KK. She was trying to guard KK. Like, this is just showing you how difficult it was for them to play this game. And I just say that what UConn did was exceptional basketball. And I do hats off to South Carolina for getting there, because this was a difficult tournament. Notice, UConn had to beat 3 number 1 teams to make it to this point, and they did. Of course, Juju, like we said, she was not playing, but that was a team battle. You had Azzi putting up 20 plus, Sarah Strong with a double-double. Paige only needed 17. And she had only had, I think, 8 points. I don't know how many points she had in the first half. She didn't have much because she was roaming. She was more so playing off the ball. So I think that was a great thought, to have her off the ball, roam, draw the attention to her, and then you get these isolation. I love how they spread the floor. They spread the floor, and when she broke down the defense, when Azzi broke down the defense, you got Chain sitting in the corner. You just had a team win. And then what they did on defense, it was just lock up. It was seatbelt the whole time. And it was mostly man-to-man coverage, one-on-one. They had great help. I just don't think South Carolina ever got in the rhythm. And I was watching somebody's post, and they were saying they were sped up. And I think that's the exact words you should say. They were absolutely sped up, especially in the first half. They were sped up so much to point Deasia Fudd Wiley's turned the ball over at half court.
So the field goal percentage is 48% from UConn, 34% for South Carolina. The 3 points, UConn made 4 out of 17, and South Carolina made 4 out of 16. So that wasn't a big differential. That's why I say South Carolina did stop UConn as far as the threes, because this game would have been even bigger than this. The largest lead that UConn had was 32, but if they would have been hitting more threes, that could have been almost a 40-point lead.
But that just show you, Deasia, how dominant they were. They did not stick to that.
So the rebounds. This is the only facet that South Carolina was actually doing better as far as the offensive rebounds. They had 17 compared to 14 from UConn. However, on the defensive end, we know that UConn was battling back. They had 26 rebounds compared to South Carolina's 19. So that game was won there. And plus, I would say one of the main factors is just assist differential. UConn had 18 assists while South Carolina had 9. And that's not surprising, because South Carolina did not have much ball movement on the floor. The offense just wasn't there today. So assists, that we didn't see any of that. We didn't see any great plays being made. So this game was really won from the very beginning. And, all we could say is Sarah Strong is back. Paige Bueckers is going to the WNBA, the number 1 pick, probably going to the Dallas Wings, to go play with Enrique. And we have Azzi Fudd. She's coming back. Now, South Carolina, we know the Dawn recruits. So she's already had some top recruits, some top 25 recruits, top 10 recruits that are coming her way. And that's going to make them better. I do hope that Raven Johnson comes back another year. I like to see Sanaya Fagan and Bree Hall. They go on to play in the WNBA. I hope they make the team, not only get drafted, but make a team. They could be helpful in different ways. But as far as today, we got to say that UConn just got the best of them. Geno got the best of Dawn Staley. We saw the frustration. And it's emotional when it gets down a stretch. It's emotional for the players. It's also emotional for the coaches. And that's what we saw today with Dawn Staley. Very emotional, putting her heart out there, fighting for her team to have those calls that some of them just didn't go her way. But it didn't matter, because no matter what South Carolina tried to do, UConn always had an answer. And South Carolina, unfortunately, did not. Any other takes? What's your overall takes on the tournament? We talking about these two, the final game, but just overall on this tournament. Were there any upsets? Were there any surprises throughout the tournament? Did it go the way you thought? You made a bracket, Sierra. What happened with your bracket? The fans want to know. The chat want to know, did you already told us you had UConn and South Carolina. Any other games that didn't go pan out in your bracket?
Some team. I think I had TCU losing. I didn't think I had
You
them.
didn't think they would get that far.
No, I
Yeah,
didn't
they
think.
was a big surprise in this tournament. TCU making it to the Elite Eight, that was surprising.
Off the top of my head, yeah, I had TCU. I think I had Iowa State going a little further. That's other than that, my brackets was shot early on. I kind of didn't look at it. I just threw it away. But I know who I had in my final four. These were the teams that I did have them in the final four. And this is how I would have picked it. But, just who would have been in the Elite Eight going to the Sweet 16, I think that kind of broke up towards the beginning of the tournament. I think this was a great tournament for basketball. Do I think it's equally matched with the men? Yes. I think the popularity for both of them is there. I think this game probably had a lot of numbers. It probably broke records with the views. I just think what was unexpected. I didn't expect South Carolina. I agree with you there that I didn't expect them to lose like this. I expected the game to be much more closer. Hard fought battle to the end. I had UConn, edging them over at the end, but I didn't expect this. This was surprising, and it was kind of, it's just showing you like pretty much you got to play 2 quarters. You got to do the full. You got to play a full game. You got to play, well, not 2 quarters. You got to play 4 quarters. You got to play 2 halves. You got to play both ends of the court, and at this point, you have to play your best basketball in a championship game. I don't think that this was South Carolina's best basketball, but I do think it was UConn's best basketball
And
as a
yeah, I
team.
agree with that statement. I think that's a strong statement. At the championship game, you have to play your best game. And we saw that from UConn. We did not see that from South Carolina. I don't even know if their last game was a good game, but it's still like they should have even had a bigger lead than that. And I think UConn, they showed that in their 2 last games that, hey, we're nothing to play with. So anybody that was saying South Carolina, like me, I really wanted them just because I'm a fan of them. But if I want to be completely honest, I knew it was going to be a hard fought battle. If they did win, I think the margin would have been like 2 or 3 points. Not that I wouldn't have predicted that UConn would have beat them by 30, but that's just showing they did not come with their A game today. Something was off. But on the other token of that, we have to agree with what Dawn Staley is saying. They've made it. These seniors have made it to the Final Four, Sierra, 4 times. And out of that, they've won. They've won 2 of them, 2 championships. This is their second loss, So you gotta say that within 4 years here, they're consistently making it here. That's just as powerful as what Paige Bueckers is doing, and I like to see that her career ended this way. She's going to be a number 1 draft pick, but just got a championship. But in the same token, in the same atmosphere, you have to agree that this is amazing for Raven Johnson, Sanaya Fagan, and Bree Hall to continuously win at this college level. People don't even do this in high school, let alone college, D1 college, Sierra, getting to the championship. This is not just conference championship. This is not just the SEC title. This is the national title. So that's amazing.
Yeah, I agree. Hats off to those young ladies. I told you from the beginning of this that I have a lot of respect for that program. I love the program. I just know basketball and getting to this end. I was telling you when we was watching them play, they had a lot of trouble, and I mean they barely came away with the win. I just think that was kind of like you in deep water right now if you're gonna go against UConn. And UConn it's not just this game, yes, they didn't just dominate. They dominated through this tournament in the last few games. And you think of other sports, when you think of track, when you think of soccer, if they're playing in a tournament, if they're playing for the Olympics, you think of gymnastics, all of these sports, Deasia, you have to peak at the right time. South Carolina did not peak. That's a term that we use a lot in track, but it correlates to all sports. You have to play your best. You have to perform your best in a championship, in the final race, in the final match, in the final battle. You have to perform your best, and they didn't give you their best. They was out of it. They was out of it early in the second half. I mean, in the second half. What was we was texting second or third quarter? Strong. No, was it Paige? One. No, Strong had threw a terrible pass to Paige. A terrible pass to Paige, and Paige still dove on the floor and got the ball and threw it out somehow. I mean, in South Carolina, it was 2 or 3 jerseys around her, and she comes up with the ball. That's the play. Those are type of plays that win basketball games. That should have easily been a turnover, and they should have been going the other way with momentum, or they should have hit the ball. The possession remained in Paige Bueckers' hands. It didn't even go out of bounds. She saved the ball from a bad pass. But that's when you desire the basketball. You want to get this basketball, and you want to win. You got to have plays like that to win big time games, and that's what they did. I think that this is great though for basketball. For women's basketball, we're still moving in the right direction. I mean, we know so many names that, I think that the popularity of it is continuing to grow. We have so many stories that came out of this tournament that were beautiful, that were uncovered through this tournament that I enjoyed hearing about. I enjoyed learning. So I think that the game is in good hands. I think next year is going to be just as great. Looking forward to the men tomorrow. Who do you got with that, Deasia?
Um, with that one, I want to see. I don't have anybody. I'm gonna just be honest. The two underdogs they came out. So when you got two underdogs, you just root for them both. Florida, Houston. I just want to see a great game. I think Florida, they point guard. I could see him going to the NBA. He's ready. I saw him coming off a screen in his pocket yesterday, and I just think that's an NBA play. I think scouts are looking for that. So I'm looking forward to watching him continue on with this great he's a pro right now to me, Sierra. Now you don't see that a lot sometimes in college basketball. Like there's still a development factor, especially on the men's side because they one and done. They prepare later. However, I do think that Houston they have a lot of grit. That's why they won yesterday versus Duke. They got on the floor for those loose balls. Same thing we wanted today for South Carolina. They did that yesterday. It shows when you do that, no matter who's the number one seed or who's the number one seed or whatever that goes. They did that, Sierra. They got on the floor for a lot of loose balls. And that game was back and forth. Like, Duke wasn't perfect, nor was Houston, but they held on. That's what South Carolina should have done today. Just stay with UConn. When it gets late in the game, everybody going to make mistakes, and that's what Duke did. They stopped making shots. What did Houston do? They continuously got stops, and they made a couple threes, got to the free throw line. That's the game. That's what South Carolina could have done today if they would have been on the floor and just stayed close. However, they let that deficit get bigger and bigger because they just did not have an answer offensively. However, what Houston did, they did have a little scoring. But if they weren't scoring here, they was making stops. They would come back down, get to the free throw line, make a two. That was the problem with South Carolina. Not enough easy baskets. So I'm looking forward to seeing Houston and Florida. Houston just has a lot of tenacity. I think if they win tomorrow, it's going to be because they outwork people. They really work hard. Now, Florida, like I said, they just got some NBA ready players right now. And that team, they came back. They coach is good. They execute. So that's going to be interesting. Which team is going to be better tomorrow is going to be the team that wins. I don't think one of them going to be perfect because those are not two perfect teams. These are the underdogs of the number one seeds, But I think whichever team executes on the defensive end and offensively will win the game. I know that's kind of like a simple statement to make, but literally it comes down to that. South Carolina could not execute today, and that's why they lost.
And you got to go back to textbook. When everything else is even, as far as if we set 0-0, what are the fundamentals? What are the principles, the basic principles of basketball? And South Carolina got away from that. But I do agree, Deasia. I think, who did I pick for this? I don't remember as much as who I picked in for the men, but I am excited. I agree with you. I'm excited to see that the two underdogs or who weren't picked the unfavorable to end up making it to the finals because that's what the men need. It's always the dominant UConn, Duke. It's always those dominant teams that end up lasting. So it's great to see that. And it's a lot of differences with the men's game. Some of the teams we might see these teams come back, or most of the core of these teams will come back for the women next year. Not necessarily for the men because they're one and done, those good players that kind of make you go, give you this push into the tournament, far into this tournament. So you just enjoy hearing like the coach's story of, how they stayed down for the program and, just wrote it out. They end up getting some standout players, or they found a way to get these seniors to play well when it mattered. So I'm happy to hear about that. But I just think that what's interesting, and I heard this take that they always talk about the committee of how did they end up choosing the four number ones on each side. But if you realize, DH, on men's and women's, they was pretty close. The men, they were perfect. Those number ones end up getting to the final four, right? It was perfect bracket. It was nearly perfect with the women. So shout out to them, the committee, because it's exciting for basketball, but it also says those that, I think that it's a great analysis of basketball as well. Yes, you like the unexpected. You like to see and hear, those moments that were unexpected, just like this game. I expected UConn to win, but what's unexpected, we already mentioned that. So that's the beautiful part of basketball. And I think so far this tournament has given you everything. It's giving you those highs and lows. It's the drama all around it. It's been exciting throughout. You've been surprised. It's giving you everything that a great movie would, right, Deasia? So it's been a great show. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, we can say that there's a lot of other things going around in college basketball right now. We have the transfer portal that's literally open right now. We just finished the women's championship, and it's going to be continuously to be open tomorrow for the men's. How is that affecting the tournament, Sierra? How is that affecting these teams, these players? How is that affecting coaches? Knowing that right now, I think on the women's side, I heard that there was over 1,000 players in the transfer portal.
I think that for those that are still playing Deasia, it does. Like you can't ignore everything. But those that are in the final four, you must lock in. You must focus on the task at hand. If you're still with this program or you don't know who's coming, you still in the tournament. You're still here for a reason. This team is you made it this far. You have to kind of quiet that noise and silence it. I think it's more pressure on the coaches, but I'm not going to say I don't like the transfer portal because it's giving so many players, especially women, a chance to make some money and get some things that they deserve out of this game using their likeness. So I would never say go away with it. It should have been happening when we was even playing, when we was in college. Prior to that, they should have had some incentive for people to use their likeness. It's only fair. So I just think that it just comes with the territory. I would never say that, oh, they need to go away with it. No, they need to have it. If a player decides to leave, that's on them. It should be more pressure on the coach, the program to keep this player around. And sometimes it don't have nothing to do with it. It's just a money game. It don't have nothing to do with this program could be excellent. It could be awesome. You can be in a small city and be the man or a woman in that city, and it's great. But you could go to a bigger market just to make more money. Sometimes that's the only thing that's different. It not saying that you will develop more. I mean, we see different stories of it, but I just think if you're still in the tournament, you ignore it. If you're out of the tournament, then it's fair game. That's how I feel on that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the transfer portal when I just would like to see. I kind of agree with you, but I kind of don't. I want to see that it opens. The women should have been opening tomorrow. The men should be opening on Tuesday. Wait till the season is over to open it. I mean, yeah, these players, they want to get to talking, communicating with these teams that are not in the tournament or teams that did not make it to the Final Four, but just have a little courteous for those that are still playing. I would like to see it open later. I mean, what does it matter? These players, I would believe that you already have an idea of which team you want to go to. You look for a deficit. They need a point guard. I am a point guard. Let me go talk to that coach. And really, that coach should be talking to you. They already need a point guard. I'm pretty sure that these conversations are very simple. I'm looking for a center. Don't have one. You're a center. You play well on the team that you are. Come here. Let's play even better. Let's get to the tournament. Like that, these conversations shouldn't be that bad. I mean, yeah, you got things in there. Do you gel with the other players? But really, when it comes down to, are you trying to change your situation? I think it's a simple conversation that could wait to after the tournaments are done. They should be starting this week.
I think some of it is the money, Deasia. That's the only thing. When they offered more money, hey, if I transfer here, I'll get more. So maybe it's a rush for that. You competing with other
Yeah,
players
because
as
I
well.
think that you are right about that part. Because if South Carolina, obviously, we know that in LSU, I'll take LSU for example. We know that they get a lot of their key players from the transfer portal. Now they made it to the what was that Elite Eight. So yeah, they probably would be competing now. They want to get to competing before maybe a South Carolina. You know, they do want to compete for those players earlier. But I think as a player, just if I was in the mind of a player, you should already kind of have thoughts. If you going into the transfer portal, I would assume you have a plan. You already know what team you're looking for. You know, yeah, there might be a surprise, but I would think you should have a good list of 5 that you should be able to wait an extra 2 weeks to make your decision. Within this week, we're going to see a lot of decisions being made. Obviously, already right now, we're seeing a lot of players making their decisions on going to the WNBA. So you seeing a lot of players getting ready to, they're putting in their notes. I'm going to the WNBA. Thank you. This has been a great season. You're also seeing thank you, blah, 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 whichever team. I'm now entering the transfer portal to see. Like a big shock was Hannah Hidalgo. I mean, not Hannah Hidalgo. A big shock was Olivia Miles. That was a huge shock. And that happened during the tournament. You know?
I think that was a big shock, but I'm hearing that she didn't. I didn't watch that last game. I'm gonna be honest with you that Notre Dame played, but I heard she didn't play much. She didn't play well, so it could have been some conflict there. But hey, she can go somewhere like I said and get more money. And if why is she rushing to the WNBA when it's more money here? I just don't understand that with any player. Now that's just my opinion. Yes, I understand it's your dream, it's this and that, but you should also be wanting to make money and start a brand. You really can't do that with the WNBA because it's still growing. College is already grown. It's bursting with opportunity. Where the WNBA is still trying to rise. So I would say develop, get better, do all of those things, make more money. It's more attractive to be at the college level. If you want to move around, move around. I mean, it's interesting. And I think the conversation looks different for some sports, Dish. It's a different conversation for football. With basketball, it's relevant now because it is in the middle of it's well, and not in the middle, in the end of the tournament. I agree with what you're saying there. They could have waited, but that's not them. That's on the committee. That's on the NCAA who's allowing that. What am I gonna do if I'm a player, DH, and I need to make a decision because it's another point guard in LA who's trying to go for it's only 1 or 2 spots. So I gotta have a sense of urgency just along with the schools. It's more of a decision with NCAA and who's ever deciding that. You just gotta move when it's hot. You just gotta get it when it's going. Whatever the saying is that they use. But anyway,
I got
let's
some questions for you now. Going back to the game that we saw today. Who is on your Mount Rushmore for the 5 or 4 greatest? I'll give you 5 greatest UConn players of all time under Geno.
okay. Sue Bird, DT, Maya Moore, Paige Bueckers. And I'm no. Before Paige, I'm gonna say Brianna Stewart and Paige Bueckers. I know I left Fee off, but the reason being is because I feel like she's grown more in the WNBA. And I could never go against Sue Bird, Deasia. Just, I mean, watching point guards, learning from point guards. I've learned so much from her game. Just studying the game. So that's why I would pick her first. Even though she might not be the have all the scoring titles and all of these things that the other has done. But I think she's contributed just as much to those championships as DT did. Or, you know, as a Maya Moore, I mean, if we say that, I think it was great to see her in the building, by the way, because she's taking a step back from the spotlight of women's basketball, and she was the face of it at one point. So it was great to see her back. And all of those championships, I mean, she was undeniable. So that's my five. And the reason why I say Paige now is because her name is bigger for UConn than what Fee was at the time. That's the only reason. If you ask me what's going to happen in 5 years when it comes to the WNBA, only about UConn players, that might be a different answer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, UConn, as we know, they produce the most WNBA players. South Carolina is pretty up there, but UConn is still leading in that. Tennessee, I think they were number 2. And that's not surprising. We have a Candace Parker, you have a Rakia Jackson. They just have players. LSU was in there too. You got Sylvia Fowles. She was there at the game today with Maya Moore. So it's just a lot of faces around this league that's building it up. It starts from the college level, and that's what we're seeing now. I would like to see the numbers on today. I think the numbers should have been there. It's just that the game was so, like, it wasn't a great game that probably viewers logged off, got uninterested.
Towards the end of it, it was great for 3, but the commentary was still there, Deja, because I feel like the shock of it was made people like, we're still tuning in because we just can't believe it. So it didn't lose any of its emphasis with that, And then, of course, Deja's Dawn Staley. People want to see her win, and you want to see this group of young women do well. You want to see them successful. Both of these teams, you got a defending champion. You want to see her go get 2, but you also want to see UConn finally win again. They haven't won since 2016. So it's like these were 2 stories. It's almost like who was the underdog? You want to see them both win, but that's just not it. It has to be a winner or a loser. But I think it was great in that way. We didn't have a team that, hey, like I would say this: if UCLA, even though I was going for them in the regular season, I think I would have hopped on the bandwagon with South Carolina because I just gotta go for I can't root against Dawn, if that makes sense. You don't I didn't fall in love with UCLA because of their story. You like to hear these stories, Paige, Azzi coming back after fighting through injuries. You see Sarah Strong with a breakout freshman year. Freshman shit, she should have been freshman of the year. She was not. I mean,
She is freshman of the year.
yeah, okay, I stand corrected. Freshman of the year. You can see her going on to being the best player in college in next year. Like, so I think that it's so many stories. Then you see the ups and downs with Phil Wiley all year. You see how she, got through that. Raven Johnson can come back. You like to hear the stories, the stuff that they shared about Pow Pow and her family and, other players that she knew in the tournament that she knew well. Like, it was so much going for these 2 teams that you wanted to see this matchup in the end.
I got another question for you. What do you think that Azzi Fudd would get out of coming back to UConn? And what do you think Raven Johnson would get out of if she does choose to come back to South Carolina? What do those 2 players get from coming back outside of the money? We already know that they get to keep all the NIL, so don't even say that. That's a given. What about their play? What about their growth? What would they get from staying in college?
I think it's different. Azzi Fudd, this has always been looked at as Paige's team, right? She's still, I won't say in the shadows because she's emerging. She's always been there, and the success Paige gets it's not possible without her team. That's what I mean. Paige is a dominant player, let's say that, but she's also on a great team. And one of the main contributors of that team has been Azzi Fudd this year. But I think when she came in as a freshman, she had so many eyes on her. I think Steph said that she had one of the most pure shots he ever seen, or something along those lines. So she's had all this attention, and now she has this chance of living up to it or showing us what she got. And I think what she did in this tournament, specifically this game, she said, hey, I got game. DH, they closing out on her. You have to close out on her because she's an amazing shooter. She's a threat. She can shoot. This girl can shoot. So you got to come up and close out. But now she's brought into her game. I'm taking you off the dribble. Never mind what has happened with my injuries, all of that. I'm taking you off the dribble and get into the basket. So she's showing you the full package of her game. And now you'll have another year to see that on display. Why wouldn't she show that? And they have a good team. They can come back. They can do it again. They can win another championship. And now that Paige is going, I think this is just a great opportunity for her to take over this team and her to lead them into another championship. So I think that it's a lot left. Yeah, she wins a championship. But what's so bad about doing it again? Why not? I think that she has a lot of more college basketball, and I think Geno had said that, and I agree. Play college. It's probably some of the funnest basketball you can play. The
Yeah.
WNBA has a lot more business. There's a lot of other things that go into that. Why not play with this team that you know, your friends? That's what it's about. Now, as far as Raven Johnson, I'm not going to be long-winded with her. I just think it makes more sense to develop some of those things that she can develop under the tutelage of Dawn Staley, of those recruiting coaches. Because I would go on to say that Dawn probably has some of the best scouting coaches that is in college basketball. Grow your game, work on some things, and also lead a team. South Carolina does not get where they are without a Raven Johnson. And I know her name goes sometimes, it follows after hearing you hearing about Tessa, you hearing about Pow for Wiley. It's so many names. Her name falls underneath that, but they could not have done what they did in the past 4 years without a Raven Johnson. So why not do it again? Why not come back and say, hey, I'm going to be a leader one more time. I'm going to steer this ship. She's still gaining stock with her name. If she does go, if she doesn't, DH, I don't think that she's going to drop down in the draft or come up that far. It's not going to matter. What matters is, hey, I can play under this coach. I can develop more. Those are the things that matter.
I think I disagree with that last fact, even though everything else I agree with. I agree with what you're saying about Azzi Fudd. Katie even he said today what her game is surgical, and I think she was very strategic, very fundamentally sound.
And
Technical,
she's
she kept them
smart.
in it. Yeah, very smart, meticulous. That's what she did well, and she just played both ends of the ball. That's what you like to see. So I agree with that. She just gonna grow, but her growth is like you saying, Sierra. It's going to be with actually being the number one, the number one on that team, basically the number one option. Besides Sarah Strong, she's that. That's what she's coming back to be. And like you said, they could be back. Now, Raven Johnson, I got to disagree on that one fact about her. I think that this season, if she comes back, she will go up in the draft because I think last year, if that would have been her senior year last year with the game she had against Caitlin Clark, she would have been drafted. That's because of what she did in that game. So I think that if she comes back, she has another year. You add pieces to the team, they get back to the championship. Now she raises her stock, and I think she's coming back. She should come back to just improve on the offensive end. She already can lead the team, but we want to see that scoring a little bit more, hitting a three consistently. That's what she was doing last year. But the team is different. You know that you had Cardosa that can open the floor more when you get it down there. She can kick out. They didn't have that this year, so it'll be interesting to see what she could do next year. And I'm just a fan of Raven Johnson. I agree with Diana Taurasi. She is a WNBA player right now, but if she wants to go higher in the draft, come back, get better, and go even higher, she could be top 10 because that's what Pow is going. She's going top 10 to probably the Chicago Sky. I think Raven Johnson can go top 10 without a doubt.
I think though that if she stays, she's smart because we know that the CBA is gonna change. If they come out next year, opposed to this year, they'll make more money. So I think that's why I'm saying it. But we okay. You said don't talk about the money. I forgot. So
And yeah, well,
I mean, but I just wanted to throw that in there for the listeners that don't understand why all of this is you kind of got to be smart with it. And I am happy that they have this option because this was not an option for them to even make any money. They had to go straight to the WNBA if they wanted to keep playing, but now they don't. So that's great. And I think they
so
deserve it.
last question that I have: do you think that UConn and South Carolina will find themselves back in the championship again?
Yes, I do. By the way, some of these other teams are breaking down. We thought we had some good groups. Notre Dame, if Olivia, if she came back, Deasia, I could have seen that team coming back into the Elite Eight. But they're splitting up. I think it's only 2 players from their core group that are coming back. All of them went into the transport portal or that graduated. So that's going to be a completely different team. Some of these teams we had eyes on. LSU, the same thing. They're not bringing it back as many. It was some surprises there. So a lot of these teams that we saw in the tournament that Van Haley is leaving. So some of these teams is going to be different teams. And when you see, that's the thing about women's basketball at the college level, you kind of get attached, you fall in love with these players, you cling to their stories, but then they go and leave, so now you got to get used to them somewhere else. But the teams that are coming back that we're going to probably see their core group is UConn and South Carolina, so I can absolutely see them back.
What
Or
about UCLA?
I do see UCLA and USC. Those are the teams actually who I see. If I'm predicting that far, and I think we'll be crazy to predict anything. That just goes against all of my beliefs. Don't predict anything. Depend on God. But I'm just gonna say that if we were, I can see those 4 teams. And I think that's great for basketball because that's who you want to see anyway.
Well, yeah, I'll leave it with this. This has been our special on kind of wrapping up the March Madness, wrapping up the Final Four and the final game. As we know, everybody watches women's sports, and that's the slogan. I like to see that around. I like to see that on shirts, but I like to say we don't take anything lightly. Keep following us, keep subscribing, keep listening. Like we said, we just love women's basketball, we love all sports, and we try to cover it. Today, we just decided to do this special on March Madness because we've been having our eyes stuck on the TV for several weeks now, and it's came to an end. It wasn't the ending that we expected, but it still was a good one. Shout out UConn.
It was a beautiful tournament.
It was a beautiful tournament. Shout out UConn at 12th championship. Still hats off to Dawn Staley and Geno. Great seasons to both of those teams to make it back. It's not easy to make it to a national championship. And as we like to say, follow us on TikTok, follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel, chat with us, tell us what you want us to take. We're going to cover it. We're going to get to it eventually. Keep listening to our episodes. We drop them weekly, and have a good one. Thank you.